All right, let's just dive right into this explainer, shall we? Today, we are going to completely shatter the illusion that we're these perfectly rational creatures. We're unpacking Robert Greene's definitive guide to reading human behavior and really mastering our own subconscious drives. I mean, if you've ever found yourself wondering why people act the crazy ways they do, or let's be honest, why you sometimes sabotage your own success, well, you're definitely in the right place. So, just to prevent us from getting completely lost in the psychological weeds here, we'll follow a quick roadmap. First, the illusion of rationality. Second, mastering your hidden self. Third, navigating the social landscape. And finally, achieving long-term fulfillment. Okay, let's kick things off with section 1, the illusion of rationality and why emotions are actually the ones doing the driving. Think about a time you said something in a heated argument that you instantly regretted. We've all been there, right? That happens because despite us thinking we're these super logical, calculating people, our emotions are firmly in the driver's seat. Logic is basically just the backseat passenger trying to make sense of the ride after the fact. So if we look at how our brains evolved layer by layer, it makes total sense. See, your rational neocortex up at the top, it's incredibly powerful, but it's slow. It literally takes seconds to process and act. But your limbic system, that emotional core right in the middle, that reacts in milliseconds, which means your emotions make the call before your logic even has a chance to wake up. And honestly, this shows us exactly why we so often self-sabotage. Because your mindset isn't just some passive reaction to life. It actively shapes your reality. Think of a negative mindset like a camera filter that's totally driven by fear and limitations. It is literally hiding possibilities from your view. Meanwhile, on the flip side, a positive mindset sees opportunities everywhere, effectively turning every single interaction from a potential threat into a calculated, strategic choice. Moving right along to section 2, mastering your hidden self, which is all about confronting the ego and the shadow. Now think of that one friend who manages to hijack every single dinner conversation just to talk about themselves. And compare that to someone like, say, Oprah Winfrey, who actually actively listens. The truth is, we all slide somewhere along this spectrum. But realizing that we literally all have some narcissistic tendencies is actually a good thing. It helps us practice active curiosity about other people, instead of just letting our fragile, deep-seated egos demand constant validation all the time. So when you're navigating the law of role-playing, like how you act completely differently at a stuffy job interview versus out at a bar with your friends, just remember that true intentions always leak out in incongruences. Why? Because a massive 93% of meaning actually comes from nonverbal cues. So if someone's words are saying yes, but their crossed arms and flat tone are screaming no, you've got to believe the 93% for sure. Okay, so beneath our polished, super professional masks lives what Greene calls the shadow. These are the repressed, sometimes darker parts of our identity. And there are actually 6 major warning signs that your shadow is starting to take control. And here's the kicker. If you constantly suppress that shadow, instead of embracing it and, channeling it productively, it's going to explosively take the wheel anyway, usually through sudden emotional outbursts or just completely contradictory behavior that leaves everyone confused. So the really crucial takeaway here is this. Whatever you furiously chase, or on the other hand, vehemently hate in a romantic partner, is usually just a projection of a repressed trait inside of you. Crazy, right? This actually stems a lot from our socially conditioned gender rigidities. When you finally stop and ask yourself what truly attracts and irritates you, you are actually just looking into a mirror. It's a direct reflection of your own hidden desires and insecurities. All right, shifting gears to section 3, navigating the social landscape, or basically surviving groups and envy. When you join a group, like maybe you pretend to suddenly love baseball just to fit in with your new partner's friends? When we do that, our independent character often just completely vanishes. It gets replaced by the social personality that automatically mirrors opinions and catches emotional contagions so easily it's scary. And if you aren't actively aware of this happening, well, you simply become a puppet of the crowd. And as you're navigating these social circles, you've really got to watch your back for 2 distinct threats. First, there's the silent, cold obstruction of passive envy. You know the type, where people just conveniently forget to include you in things. And then there's the open gossip and straight-up sabotage of active envy. And listen, you are especially vulnerable to both of these when you experience rapid, highly visible success in close proximity to your friends or your colleagues. I mean, have you ever watched a beloved, completely humble coworker get a big promotion and then suddenly become just unbearably arrogant? Yeah, they feel victim to grandiosity.
They start actually believing they're the chosen one, like they're somehow exempt from normal limitations and completely immune to failure. It's a total trap, and it happens when we stop practicing our ambition with self-awareness and forget to stay grounded.
So, how do you persuade anyone in this incredibly tricky social landscape? Well, you have to bypass their hardwired fight or flight defensiveness. Think of it almost like a puzzle. You absolutely have to become a deep listener and genuinely validate their intelligence and autonomy. Because if you directly attack their deeply held beliefs, I guarantee they will just double down. But if you reassure their hidden insecurities, suddenly they'll open right up to your ideas.
Okay, zooming out now to our final act, Section 4, Achieving Long-Term Fulfillment, covering purpose, time, and mortality.
Let's be real for a second. Chasing fleeting pleasure, chasing money, or chasing social media fame, that almost always leads straight to aimlessness and depression. True, deep down fulfillment actually comes from establishing your ikigai, which is your core reason for being. It is all about falling in love with the actual, messy process of solving a specific problem and mastering that beautiful flow state, rather than just constantly seeking external validation from everyone else. Now this is fascinating. As the 14th century historian Ibn Khaldun observed way back when, you are incredibly influenced by the generational cycle you happen to be born into. Society essentially cycles from revolutionaries who break the rules, to organizers who create structure, to builders who grow the system, and finally to cynics who just question the whole shebang. Recognizing exactly where you sit on this timeline is pretty much the only way you can break free from your own generational myopia.
Most people navigate life acting like a total chess beginner, just completely drowning in immediate details and reacting to every little minor problem like it's the absolute end of the world. But if you want to achieve long-term fulfillment, you have to practice strategic detachment. When you are faced with a crisis, you've got to step back and ask yourself one simple thing. Will this actually matter in 5 years? Literally, that single question forces a massive shift in your brain, from a short-sighted reaction to a true strategic long-term focus.
And ultimately, Green's law of death denial teaches us something that is just incredibly profound. Confronting our own mortality, like genuinely looking it right in the eye, completely strips away all our petty anxieties and those exhausting social comparisons. It grounds us entirely in the present moment. And more than anything, it gives us the authentic courage to actually take bold action without being held back by that paralyzing fear of failure. So, by deeply understanding these hidden forces we've covered throughout this explainer, your primitive emotional brain, your repressed shadow, the massive sway the group has over you, and your own mortality, you effectively gain the ultimate cheat code to life. You can start reading people like an open book and permanently transform yourself from an unconscious reactor into a strategic creator of your own destiny. So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this one thought. The very next time you feel a sudden surge of frustration, or maybe a really desperate urge to just impress the people around you, hit pause. Stop and ask yourself, are your hidden instincts the ones actually steering the wheel right now? Figure out who is genuinely in charge in that exact moment, and then absolutely take back control.